Hey, good Saturday afternoon. Carl Rominger here. 540-0580, and they tell me that only one of the phone lines is working, so be patient if you can't get through. 540-0580. I guess Clear Channel didn't pay their phone bill this month. Oh, look, they're trying to take me off the air now. Shade, what happened? You guys pay the phone bill? What happened? Clear Channel out of money? What's going on? No, don't know?
I have no idea.
All right, anyhow. 540-0580, call in. I want to talk to you folks about a videotape I posted on the web. I want to talk to you guys about a lot of different stuff. And if you're a Facebook user, join me on Facebook as my friend. You can see a lot of great commentary there. We've had quite a few people comment on the video. And I want to point something out because I've caught this in a minority of folks who commented on these things. 540-0580. Shane, can you hear that buzzing? Do we know what that is? Oh, man, this station is falling apart. It's falling apart. 540-0580. I caught this thread on the Facebook where one of these guys is saying, oh, well, you just broke the law because you were drinking and driving and you just talked your way out of it by being clever. Well, first of all, I wasn't drinking and driving. Second of all, you don't have to answer the police's questions whether you've done anything wrong or not. Number three, you don't have to be drunk to be found guilty of driving under the influence. In fact, in Pennsylvania, and I want everybody to know this, let's take a call here, and then I'm going to tell you how you can get convicted without being under the influence at all. David, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger.
A member of my family got into a little bit of trouble, and I was wondering, what kind of jail time he could look at for these charges.
Okay.
What he was charged with, I have the docket in front of me, was burglary, theft by unlawful taking, and receiving stolen property.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you broke in somewhere and took something. The lesser charges, receiving stolen property, is a charge where if you have to be in possession of stolen property at the time you know it's stolen, you can be guilty, including the person who stole it. So he's received stolen property, or he retains or dispossesses himself of it. So, assuming that's one of the lesser charges. What'd you say the middle charge was?
Theft by unlawful taking.
Theft by unlawful takings, when you take something, movable property of another, and then ultimately, the most serious one is burglary, and that's a felony. Now, how much time he's facing is going to depend on a lot of things. It's going to depend on his prior record, if any.
Well, he did this like 2 months after his 18th birthday. His juvenile record, he had like a couple of fights in school, and they made it disorderly conduct or something like that. But that was all while he was in high school. Right,
but the juvenile record could still count against him. Those juvenile records don't disappear, contrary to popular belief. Number two, depending on whether he burglarized a home or a business, and whether anybody was present at the time.
It was a home.
Yeah, well, he's in big trouble. Long and short of it is a first-time offender could face anywhere from county prison all the way up to state prison, and all the way up to a potential, I believe, felony one maximum of 20 years. So it's a serious set of charges.
Mm-hmm.
Burglary of a home is very, very bad because that's how people get shot, killed, maimed, and mutilated.
Mm-hmm.
We think of burglary of a business not equipped for overnight staying as a lesser offense.
Okay.
All right, David?
Okay, well, thank you very much, Carl.
All right, thanks.
Have a good day.
540-0580. 540-0580. Call in if you've got a question. But I want to get back to this since we took that call. How can you be guilty of a DUI in Pennsylvania without even being impaired? Well, and somebody's going to laugh at me, but this has actually happened. Okay, let's say you ingest marijuana, but not illegal marijuana, but legal marijuana. And maybe it's medical marijuana in California, maybe it's medical marijuana in New Jersey, or maybe you just take a plane to Norway, you're over there hanging out, and you go to the pot bar, and we'll say you do that on the 2nd of the month. You fly back to America when your vacation's over, 2-week vacation, it's now the 16th. Get out of the airplane, get in the car, drive home. Drive around for about 2 weeks, so now you're 28 days out, and you get pulled over. And the cop says, I think I smell alcohol on your breath. Of course, you say, well, I was drinking, and you dutifully answer all his questions. Yeah, I'm coming from the bar. Yeah, I did hit the yellow line once or twice, but I only had 2 beers. And they go and they blow you for alcohol, and you come back as a .01, which makes you way, way down there, almost practically no alcohol left in your system. And the police officer says, well, I want you to consent to a blood test. And guess what? You have to consent to a blood test or else you're going to lose your license for a year. And then they take the blood test, and he says, his alcohol was low on the PBT, so I'm going to have him screen him for marijuana and marijuana metabolite. And the hospital comes back and says he has no marijuana in his blood. Hasn't none, zero. But we did catch 7 nanograms per milliliter of marijuana in his blood. 7 nanograms. Well, 7 nanograms. That's about 28 days post-smoking. You'll test positive for 5 or more nanograms of metabolite, inactive. So now you are guilty of the highest tier DUI in Pennsylvania. It's your first offense. You're going to do 3 days in jail. You'll lose your driver's license for a year. Wow, what did you do wrong? Nothing. But by answering the police officer's questions, you enabled him to arrest you. You enabled him to test you. And guess what? You did do something wrong because the legislature has said that the Department of Health can determine whether or not a metabolite of a drug that's no longer in your system, what the levels will be. And they've set it at 5 nanograms. So for a marijuana smoker, you got 30 days till it clears out. And somebody is going to go, well, marijuana is illegal. No, it's not. No, it's not. Marijuana is illegal in Pennsylvania. It's legal in a lot of other countries. So if a tourist comes over here from another country where it's legal and they don't smoke it and they obey our laws, they can't drive. They can't rent a car because they have horrible metabolite in their blood. Joe, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger. Joe.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a question, and I don't even know if this is actual true information, but I heard through the grapevine that the company that I work for, it's a national company, I won't mention the name, but they have a policy whereby they purchase life insurance policies and name themselves as beneficiaries.
Right.
I didn't know if that, I had real problems with that. I have, number one, my question, I guess, is what's that going to do to my regular life insurance policy that I have?
It does nothing.
Okay.
An employer has an insurable interest in an employee. So what they do is they buy a life insurance policy on you.
Okay.
And then they buy it on all the employees. And then when somebody dies, they take those monies tax-free.
Wow. Okay. I mean, all right, so you're, okay.
But I don't know if they closed that tax loophole or not. One of the big utilizers of it were like the Walmarts of the world and big companies. Because here's what happens. If you have 1 million employees, statistically we know how many are going to die in any given year. So the life insurance company would come to Walmart and they'd say, okay, give us $50 million on all your employees and we'll pay out $100,000 per death or something in the year. And then at the end of the year, they would hand back to Walmart, let's say $45 million. So Walmart would give away $50 million and collect $45 million. The life insurance company make $5 million, and they could run these numbers. So with such a large group of employees, they could run these numbers exactly. The advantage is Walmart gets to write off the expense of the insurance. So that's a $50 million deduction, and then take the $45 million tax-free.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
Doesn't that seem a little bit unethical or something?
Well, wait a minute. Wait. What do you mean unethical? What's unethical about it? The government has set the tax policy. They want to take your money, but they've given you a set of rules that will allow you to keep some money. That's what everybody does, right?
They can double dip, though. I mean, isn't it double dipping, though? I mean, in the event of my untimely death, then
it's not double dipping. It's walking around the law. The crazy Congress said you can write it off. You can write off life insurance, and then the crazy Congress said you can take the money tax free.
Well, I kind of detect that maybe you I don't know, maybe partially agree with my I guess I'm just have a little worry about it. That's kind of what I was thinking.
Understand now. There wouldn't be any harm to you.
Yes, sir.
All
I
right.
appreciate your time.
No
sir.
problem, Joe. But you're right. It's one of these loopholes that Congress created because Congress can't see past the eyeglasses.
Well, it seems like they haven't done that. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
540-0580. All right, welcome back. Carl Rominger here, show's weekend appointment. Listen, the problem with the phones, apparently they did pay the bill, best I can tell, but I think I got a little workaround here. 540-0580, you should call. If you don't get through on that, I'm going to give you two alternative numbers. 901-6712, 901-6712, and 901-6711. Okay, so 540-0580, but if you want to try to get on one of the other lines, it's 901-6712 or 6711. 901-6712, 6711. That'll come through on the other two lines. For some reason, it's not rolling over, and I guess they're changing the phone system around again. If you've ever been on listening to Bob Durgan, you know how Bob loves it when they play with the phones. Well, I know how he feels. All right, let's see. Sammy, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger.
Yes, Dr. Rominger.
Yeah, very few people call me that, but I am a doctor. You're right, JD.
Are you really? Okay, so I was right. You sound like a doctor, and you're fearless. You take all callers, from what I can tell.
Even you, Sammy.
Huh?
Even you, Sammy.
Yes.
What's the question today?
Yes. I would like to go to an independent laboratory and have my blood analyzed. So I called the laboratory, and they say, "Oh, no, you can't do that. It's my blood, right? It's my body. I would like to know what's in my blood." "No, you got to go to your doctor." But I said I have 3 doctors. I don't want to call them every time. I need, as an example, a PSA. A lot of men have prostate problems, and by keeping track of your PSA, you can avert a lot of complications from cancer.
So who do you have to call?
Well, I got to call my urologist who's in Philadelphia area every time I need a PSA. I mean, that's silly. And I also want to get my cholesterol checked and some other components of my blood.
Now, some of the cholesterol stuff I think you can get done without a doctor's script.
Well, no, I called them and they said no.
But a lot of insurances won't cover it.
Why can't I get my blood analyzed, Dr. Rominger?
I do think, and Sammy, I'm going to let you listen to this because I'm going to free up that phone line, 540-0580, 901-6712 or 6711. We've got to use 3 numbers today to get through to all 3 lines, folks. So 901-6712 or 6711. And then, of course, the good old 540-0580. Well, Sammy, the answer is probably your insurance requires a prescription, and obviously a lot of medical testing is controlled with doctors as a gatekeeper. But I'm certain that if you want to pay your own dollars straight up, you could find a lab somewhere that'll do these things for you. Chad, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger.
Oh, hi. That was a very interesting video you posted on your website.
Yeah, let me let people know. If you go to weekendappointment.com, up top you're going to be able to watch a video of an actual police stop where the police stop some poor motorist on the street, and some poor motorist just happens to be me. So if you want to check that out, go to weekendappointment.com. You can watch it and talk about it. What'd you think, Chad?
Now, at the end, when he says, "I strongly suggest if you've been drinking, you do a U-turn and park your car over on the other side of the road." Now, the cynical part of me says that he can watch you do that, make an illegal U-turn on a highway like that, pull you over for that, and then automatically suspect you for DUI. Is that possible?
Yeah, and what I think he was trying to do, there was a parking lot over there. That's right by the boat launch down on Front Street, up at the end by Fort Hunter. And of course, there's a group of fishermen over there watching all this go on. But he wanted me, I thought what he wanted me to do was admit that I'd been drinking by doing an act in exchange for the statement. In other words, if you stole the cookie, go to the living room, young man. And the kid walks over to the living room. You're like, aha, I knew you stole the cookie. And I think that was what he was going to do, was say, oh, you've admitted to drinking. Now I can combine that with some other things and I can arrest you. See, they didn't have probable cause to arrest me to test my blood at that point. I wish they would have arrested me illegally because I would have had a hell of a lot more fun with this. But the point of the matter is he was trying to get there. And this is important, folks. The police are not there trying to do you a favor. And I used that example, if you heard me a little earlier, Chad. By the way, I just put the talk line numbers out here again, 540-0580 or 6711 or 12. Call in, folks, and we'll talk. My big issue was he's doing this to fish, and at some point you could be convicted even without alcohol in your blood. They could determine that some prescription you were on was the basis. They could look at a marijuana or other drug metabolite that you'd legally used. People don't realize that. So I'm not going to do them a favor and let them have a free fishing expedition. So
my other question is what'd you wind up doing?
I just walked off to the side. They were kind of like, and I was kind of like, I'm just going to hang out here. I'll see you guys later. And so I waited till they pulled away, and then I went over, checked to see, because I originally was going out to see if anybody was catching any catfish. That was my big purpose.
Now, would that be considered entrapment? I was the one that posted that question on the website.
The short answer is it could be, but probably not. It just gives them it's just dirty pool, but unfortunately I don't think the court's going to do anything about it. The other thing I really want people to pick up on, because somebody else said, well, it sounds like they recognized you were a lawyer right away. Well, the car was not registered to me. And I'm telling you, when he came up to the car, he took my license and registration, which I had ready to go right away, because I know they like to say you fumbled or searched for them. So, folks, get them ready and hand them right to him, which is what I did. And, of course, I could tell his head's like right in the car right away, sniffing. I think I smell alcohol. Where are you coming from? And of course, I knew right away that he could care less if I'd been driving 110 miles an hour or 5 miles over the speed limit. But he never looked at my license. And so first question was, do you know why I pulled you over? Well, that's a famous question. Yeah, I was speeding, officer. That's an admission. You don't know why the police pulled you over, folks. Even if you were doing something wrong, it doesn't mean that's why they pulled you over. It's most likely. But that question you say, no, I don't know why he pulled you over. I don't know what's in his head. And the real answer is he probably pulled me over. I was looking for a DUI, right? So he says that, do you know why I pulled you over? I said, no, I don't know why he pulled me over. Well, you did this. I'm like, well, I guess if that's what I did, you're going to, write it up. That's fine. So thank you. And then he's like, where are you coming from? And I was like, I'm not going to answer that. I'm an American citizen. That's my right. And I was being a little snide, I guess, at that point. And then he says, well, have you been drinking tonight? And I said, no, I'm not going to answer that question either. I mean, I said, no, I wasn't drinking. I said, no, I'm not going to answer your questions. And then he said, this is very important. This is being audio and visually recorded. Well, that doesn't mean crap. Excuse my French there. But that's a line, that's a line of poo that maybe if you didn't know any better, you would think it means something. But just because it's being audio and visually recorded, so I said, that's a point when I said, well, I'd like an attorney. And that's the first time he looks at my license, and that's when you hear him say on the tape, oh, you're an attorney, aren't you? So I have a feeling that if we'd gone a little bit longer and he hadn't figured out I was an attorney, he might have got a little saltier on the video. I'm only guessing. And maybe, the officer seems like a nice guy. Met him in daylight, too, and he seems like a solid guy. But he's doing a job. And he's not there to help you. And the more questions you answer, better things aren't going to get better for you. So, I don't know, Chad. I'm just rambling here. But what do you got any other thoughts or questions?
No. Thanks for going over that.
Yeah, and I guess the most important thing to remember is this. I get so mad because there's this guy, if you go on Facebook and you read all the quotes and comments on there, and anybody out there who's on Facebook, join up and become a friend of mine, check it out, and read up, comment on it there. I got a lot of comments from people who've experienced similar types of stops where they feel like it's a fishing expedition, and as soon as the police figure out they're not drinking, they just disappear. But there's a few people that are like, well, if you should just answer their questions. You've got to, if you're not doing anything wrong, you got nothing to hide. Well, those are the same people that would dutifully report their neighbors for having Jews in the attic, okay? Our job is not to help the government. Our job is not to make it easier on the government to steal our rights. And the issue isn't whether I was drinking or driving. The issue is whether or not I have a right to be free from intrusion by the government. And I just get so mad at people who are like, just answer their questions. The answer is I don't have to. And you shouldn't get mad at me. Somebody's got to test the cops every once in a while. What if they'd have just cuffed me at that point? Well, it'd be good to know that they're out there disrespecting people's constitutional rights. So somebody's got to invoke them once in a while. All right, Chad, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's see here. 540-0580. And, of course, our alternative numbers today are 901-6712 and 6711. And it figures today the phones aren't working really well. We're going to do a second hour of the show, folks. meaning we're going to be on from 3 to 4. Now, if you're listening to the radio, you're not going to hear us. But if you want to call in with questions, you want to talk about a topic or anything along those lines, you call 540-0580. And we're going to keep the phone line open from 3 to 4. And what that's going to let you do is continue to ask questions. We'll do maybe a little more long format answers. If you got something you really want to get in depth with, or you just want to comment again, like on this video or something along those lines, we'll have you on. So then that will be broadcast. That second hour will be broadcast as a podcast immediately after. So a little after 4 o'clock, you'll be able to go back and hear the second hour of the show. And what we're going to do each week is try to build a second hour up offline, off the air, which will come as a bonus podcast. And, of course, we'll bring some guests on and things like that. But this is the first time we're doing it. So, again, with the phone lines, we'll live with it. I got to go to break right now, but I got Jason holding. I got somebody else calling in. And when we get back from break, 540-0580. On the two lines you want to try, 901-6711 and 901-6712. Call in here, and we'll see you after the break. Okay, 540-0580, 901-6711, 901-6711. Those are our two talk line numbers, or 901-6712. Folks, sometimes we got to use extra numbers because the rollover isn't working right, so I'll be screaming and yelling and hollering. I could be like, Bob, okay, I'm angry. I'm going to get it. Art, what's going on in here? Jason, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger. Are you still there, Jason?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
All right. I apologize if you already went over this, but I missed the first couple of minutes of your show. I was wondering, if you do get pulled over, what questions do you have to answer? I mean, I know you got to supply your license and registration, but other than that, what do you have to supply the officer with?
I kind of joke, name, rank, and serial number is it. And so you have to give your name and your license, your registration, insurance information if they ask for it. Other than that, you really don't have to answer anything. Of course, it's always a judgment call. I mean, if you're completely fine and sober and happy and you trust the police, you can just kind of answer everything. And if you think maybe you only had 2 beers and you're going to blow clean, let them, talk with them, tell you where you've been, where you're going, and blow the breath test. And maybe they let you go. Problem is, that's sometimes. Other times you've misjudged how much you drank. Other times the police don't care how much you drank. Because they're going to use one of the alternative ways of proving it, which is the metabolite I was talking about, or this nebulous general impairment. Yes, Mr. Rominger blew a .05 on this BAC, which is well below the legal limit and probably only a beer and a half. But I thought he was physically incapable of safe driving based upon his appearance and his driving on the road and his appearance at the scene of the stop. And then a jury gets to determine, or a judge gets to determine, if the police officer was correct or not. And I was fortunate enough to have a video, I think, that shows that I'm not swaying or having any physical problems. In fact, I think I'm darn tootin' fine on there because I had so little to drink. Over the course of the evening, I'd had 2 whiskeys at the Red Lobster and then 1 glass of wine over like a 7-hour period. So there wasn't enough alcohol in me to cleanse a wound. Point being, though, is... Yes, imagine there's no video, and the cops are like, yeah, he was irrational, he was yelling, he was swaying. And the jury goes, well, why would the officers lie? And boom, you're guilty. So the more information you give them, the more they can use it. The problem is, of course, I guess if you got a bad officer, they're going to not respect your invocation of your rights.
Right. So what my question is, what do you if you say, you give them your name and all your information, and they ask you a question, you say, I really don't want to answer it. And then basically they start browbeating you. What do you do? You have
to do one of two things. You either give in or you stand up. And listen, here's the answer. I always get mad at clients who, particularly when they're involved in a more serious criminal matter, and DUI is a serious one, but I'm talking about, when they're facing years and years in jail. Why would you even talk to the police? Well, he told me I had to. And I do get a lot of reports from clients that the police will tell them, you don't need a lawyer. Yeah, you can invoke your right to counsel, but you're going to jail tonight then. And I've heard that stuff. So the answer is, yeah, you've got to be prepared to be browbeaten. Here's the reality. They got to take you to a judge sooner or later. And that's your
Okay.
chance to say, Judge, I just want to go about my way. And they've got to have probable cause. And so, the long-term consequences versus the short-term consequences, people are so definitely scared of being arrested. And I assure you it's not a pleasant thing. But it's better than losing your driver's license for a year, or it's better than having the police completely incriminate you for something you didn't do. And false confessions are more common than people think because you do get browbeaten into agreeing to things you didn't do.
Well, yeah, I've been pulled over twice in my life, and I had an issue. It actually it was on a federal property, so it ended up being I ended up with a pretrial agreement, and, nothing really came of it. I had 3 months probation, but I did absolutely nothing, and basically had a false confession. I hadn't done anything. He gave me a roadside sobriety test, and I passed it, and he said, well, I'm going to give you a breathalyzer anyway.
Right.
And like you said, I blew it was a .0175. It was ridiculous.
Now, let me explain something to you so that people know this. And by the way, talk line numbers are 540-0580, and our alternate talk lines today are 901-6712 and 901-6711. We got a little rollover problem here, folks. So those usually the rollovers, but you can call directly on 901-6712 and 901-6711. Jason, here's the problem with the standard field sobriety test. First of all, you're not going to pass them. On the roadside, late at night, you probably aren't going to pass them. Even on clean level, well-lit, fully awake, healthy adult is going to fail them 20% of the time. Okay? So imagine a test that there's 1 in 5 chance you're going to fail it, even if you're sober, it's well-lit, there's no wind, and you're not nervous, and there's not lights flashing and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
That's the test they use. Now, when you do pass them, the police then go to the breath test. Now, here's the reality. The reality is this. They were planning to go to the breath test any which way. You were getting that portable breath test whether you took the field sobriety test or not.
Right.
The reason for that is if you pass the field sobriety test, it doesn't help you because whether you pass or fail them is irrelevant versus your BAC. So they only use them to build a better case to incriminate you. And in fact, if you read the manuals, and I know something about this because I actually taught this to police officers. If you read their manuals, it tells them, do the standard field sobriety test, build your case, if you can. And if those don't work out, you give them the PBT, and that's why there's a particular order to these things. You're never going to see a guy do the PBT and then the standard field sobriety test.
Okay.
Now, if you're really drunk, they'll just give you the PBT because they know that they know they're going to get high PBT off you right away. You got to take the official blood test, the official breath test. So remember that. If they say, would you go downtown with us for the blood test, or would you go downtown with us for the official breath test? You got to say yes to that.
So they can only use the blood test in court. They can't use the breathalyzer test.
The PBT can be used in court for purposes of whether they have probable cause to arrest you or not.
Okay.
I know that the police will generally want you to do a PBT. And the problem with doing a PBT is once you blow over a .08, you're cooked for sure. If you blow below, you're still possibly in danger. So I would never myself take the PBT roadside unless I'd had absolutely no alcohol to drink whatsoever for like 3 days. And that's never happened.
And you can refuse to take the PBT?
You can refuse to take the portable breath test roadside. And again, that's a judgment call. But I would not, I personally would not, as you saw in the video, I didn't answer questions and I didn't do standard field sobriety tests, and I would not have taken a portable breath test. If they had asked me, would you cooperate for a blood test or official breath test, I'd say, okay, throw me in the car, boys, let's go.
Okay, now I didn't plan on getting into all this, but I've been curious about this ever since it was 2003 or 2004 that this happened to me. When this all went down, it was, like I said, it was federal property. He gave me the roadside test, then the portable breathalyzer test. They put me in his car and wrote me a ticket, and then told me I couldn't drive, and just went and said, who hasn't been drinking? And only one person in the vehicle had been, and everybody else said they hadn't. And he said, okay, picked one of them and said, you drive. And gave me a ticket and said, you need to be in federal court this day.
Right.
Gave me a ticket. Is that how things are done, or was that completely done the wrong way?
Well, first of all, that's on a federal installation, so we're under the federal rules, so it's a little different than Pennsylvania.
Okay.
But the ticket he issued you, was it for a DUI?
No. I don't even...
Some other kind of driving offense, probably.
But yes, he said that somebody wasn't strapped in the back.
Right. That's a federal traffic ticket he gave you. Yeah.
Okay.
Why
do I need to appear in court for a traffic ticket?
In the federal system, you have a court date automatically, but you can send that in ahead of time and get the court date waived off. In the state system, we give you the ticket, and you got to set up the court date. In the federal system, they give you a court date, and they do that in a lot of states. You would automatically get a court date in New York State, for instance. So that doesn't really mean anything. That's just a procedural matter.
Interesting. Very interesting.
All right, Jason. Thanks for calling in. I really appreciate it. I'm going to take a few more callers. And if you got more questions, hit me up on Facebook or on weekendappointment.com, where you can, of course, see the video if you haven't already seen it.
I'll check it out later today. Thank you.
All right, my friend.
Bye.
Let's see, 540-0580, 540-0580, or 901-6712 or 6711. We're going to keep taking calls all the way up until almost 4 o'clock, folks. So we'll be off the air at 3. You'll hear your regularly scheduled program here on WHP, but you'll be able to call in a weekend appointment right here, and we'll take your calls going through that second hour. Bill, you're on WHP 580.
Yeah, this is mainly a comment, but whatever happened to just the fundamentals that the police are there to protect and serve, not bill and collect, and I've been seeing so many corrupt cops that don't even know their own laws and the laws of the land of anything, and they're allowed to get away with murder. I mean, you're telling a perfect example that they want to try to fish and try to get, many people busted and collect all this money. I think that's not what it should be about, and it's wrong.
Well, Bill, the police. First of all, I got to say, first of all, I know some great police officers.
So do I.
And some guys that I would give my life for. Basically, they're that solid of friends. The flip side is, like every other profession, there's some bad apples out there, but there's also an institutionalization going on right now of, for instance, DUI enforcement, where they're making it a competition. Which officer gets bonuses, gets the most DUIs, wins the trip, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, send him to Florida, this sort of thing, whatever it is.
Like I said, it goes back to fundamentals. What happened to protect and serve, which is what their mandate is, not to find out, how many people can we bust in a day or whatever. That's not a good thing.
If you had a good police officer, if you had a truly good police officer, I think, when you asked him this question, I think this is what he or she will tell you. Why do you arrest people? And they're going to say, because I have to. Not because I want to. Not because I'm trying to get more than the other guy. But because I have to. In other words, they don't approach each situation as, can I get a collar here, or what's going to happen? They approach each situation as, what's going on? Let's get to the bottom of it. Is there a way to resolve this without arresting somebody? No, unfortunately. Therefore, I have to arrest somebody, but there's no joy in it. I think that's like a good hunter. They kill because you have to have hunted. There's no joy in the killing itself. It's just the completion of the act. And for a police officer, I think that would be the right answer. I don't know, Bill.
Well, I mean, I know a lot of good cops that try to work out the situation, but it seems like nowadays, and I'm going to get on your Facebook and send you a lot of video clips, but it just seems like the corruption and the bad cops are increasing in numbers.
Yeah. Please do send me those clips. All right, I got to go to break here.
Okay, thank you.
540-0580 or 901-6711, 901-6712. See you after the break. Hey, welcome back. Carl Rominger here, answering your legal questions, talking about the video that I posted on the internet of my own DUI stop. Those are tough to get. If anybody else out there is stopped by the police and wasn't arrested or was arrested, whatever, you're interested in getting your video, let me know, and we'll see what we can do. They're always good to have to see how things really actually went down for your own peace of mind. I find sometimes they help convince clients they need to plead guilty, too. Nothing like a video of you hitting the mailbox to make you realize you might have actually violated the law. Mike, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger.
Going on, Carl, baby?
Not too much. What are you up to?
Just getting ready to go to work so that I can support the government, federal, state, local, also the people on public welfare, and try to provide for my own family. What are you up to?
Basically the same thing, my friend, although I took a little side journey here just to come on the air and talk.
You like that answer, don't you? You see, I'm a realist. Once you get out of the fantasy of the 13 years of school, a lot of these people don't know that that's what you're going to do. You're going to go provide for people that you did not create. What do you think of that one? I thought I'd get a little quick one in there, you know?
All right, so what's going on, my friend?
All right, let's talk taxes here. I have another lawyer friend, and I want to hear what you have to say about this. And she had told me that as long as you do not lie on your taxes and you tell the government every penny that you've made, if you do not pay in whatever taxes are due, you will not go to jail. You cannot get arrested. You could tell Uncle Sam, look, I made $1 million. I went to the Bahamas. I went down to Mexico where the money's worth so much more. I did this and that. I spent every single penny of yours, and this is the truth. This is what I made. Spent it, and I don't have no taxes for you, for me to pay to you, and it is what it is.
I don't know the answer to that question. I really don't. I do know the answer that you can put on your tax return that you made all your money through extortion and drugs, or actually you don't have to put on there that you did. You just have to claim it, and they won't tell anybody, and they'll gladly accept a tax on the illegal income. Al Capone was the guy who went to jail for tax evasion, and so now all the people that do all the bad stuff pay their income tax on it, and that way they're free and clear of tax charges. But
so you're telling me if I went back to my Sicilian roots and started a legalized mafia ring, as long as I claim the truth of what I made, I'd be okay?
With the IRS, you would be, and they wouldn't report you out to anybody else. Because you don't have to put on your tax return that what you actually do. You just put down the income, and you pay the tax on it, and the deductions. I would not deduct bullets and quicklime, though. That might put up a flag.
Wow. That's amazing. The way I see it with the current administration of these legalized gangsters, that might be something to consider. Look at Geithner,
Well, and I'll tell you that, Mike. And the other thing you should know is, that's why the federal government also gladly accepts tax returns from illegal aliens and doesn't report that back to INS or ICE or whoever is in charge of that these days, because we want the revenue more than we want the people out of the country.
Oh my gosh, what a mess!
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mike, just make sure you know and everybody else knows from now on, even though we go off WHP on the air at 3, we keep taking calls and do another hour worth of show. That'll be a bonus podcast. Okay, my friend?
Yeah, well, I got to go to work and provide for these people who don't work. So you have a good day.
All right. About midnight when you get home, you just pop that podcast in. 540-0580, 540-0580. Write that number down, folks, 901-6712, 901-6712 or 6711. You can call in, put you on the air here. And then after 3 o'clock for another hour, you'll be able to call in, and we encourage you to do that. I'd like to have some callers during that hour. And, of course, as things go on, we're going to get it more developed. But you'll be able to get it on the WHP 580 website as a bonus hour shortly after 4 o'clock after Shane loads it up. Leo, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger.
Hi. My question is the cost of probating a will. What's a good general price range, or can you give me an idea what the highs to the lows are?
Yeah. I can tell you that attorneys are all over the map and how they charge on this.
Right.
Some attorneys charge a percentage. I've seen people charge flat percentages. I've seen people charge declining percentages. The answer is a fair price, I would say, is probably, I'm just going to ballpark it here, and I'm going to say it doesn't matter how you're billed, whether you're billed as a flat rate or an hourly rate or a percentage. I would say $5,000 for an estate in the range of $100,000 to $150,000 is probably not an unreasonable fee.
Okay.
As it gets larger, the amount should go down because the amount doesn't really matter. The only thing that happens with larger estates with larger amounts of money, sometimes they're very complicated. So I can give you an example. If I died and all my money was in one asset worth $1 million, it's probably not any more complicated than a $100,000 estate. Okay?
Gotcha.
Probably not.
Gotcha.
On the other hand, if I have $10 million, we've got federal estate tax issues and things. It gets very complicated. But most people, if they have $712,000, it's a vacation home in Potter County, which is really a cabin, right?
Right.
And a boat. but we didn't title the boat to Dad. We titled it, to Auntie, and she said signed an agreement with Dad. So you run into all these crazy little things where you've got to clean up and do a lot of work. Then you can go higher, and so usually you try to do an eyeball, and I think a good attorney would tell you, okay, we'd look it over and say, what are we looking at for an estate? Here's what we expect. Here's what a reasonable fee would be. Here's what we should probably expect it to come in at.
Right. Well, essentially there's nothing.
Right.
And I'm the guy that's stuck with, like you said, cleaning up things and fitting pieces in, and maybe 20, 30,000 cash, and that's it, and a mobile home and personal belongings, but everything else will probably go into paying off her nursing home.
Right. And in fact, sometimes we do those estates where the nursing home is really the only beneficiary, and the way we've done them is we have $1,000 minimum, and then charge a modest amount above that if there's more work. But a lot of times it's just getting everything filed, getting the tax return filed, and then writing the check to the nursing home.
Okay. All right. So could be anywhere from $1,000 on up, depending on the
complexity and whatnot. And there's also, of course, and the courts don't care, but they need their $282 and
oh yeah. I've already found that out.
Which, by the way, folks, the court is bankrupt. That's what best I can tell, because there was the governor was asked to stop appointing district justices.
Right.
Which, what does that tell us? They don't have enough money to make payroll.
Right.
Ugh.
Oh well. Okay.
All right.
So you guys handle that then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to sit down with you off the air and go over what we need to do.
Sure.
And as a loyal listener, I'll go easy on you.
Okay. All right. So just call your office there in Carlisle.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thanks, Leo.
Thank you very much.
540-0580. Christian, you're on WHP 580. Christian.
Hello. Hey, Carl.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, pretty good.
Good.
Just driving around listening to the show, and I didn't know if you were still on the topic of, well, you were on a different topic than your video, but I wanted to get your thoughts on the different tasing situations going around. I know there was another one at a golf championship, and wanted to get your thoughts on.
Like this kid that ran out on the.
Police.
Yeah, like this kid that ran out on the.
Well, the field, and now yesterday there was one at a golf tournament. A guy was being loud, and they ended up tasing him later.
Christian, you want to hold for the bonus hour?
Sorry?
You want to call us back in 5 minutes and come on the bonus hour here?
Okay.
540-0580. Folks, the phone line's going to be open for another hour. 540-0580. 540-0580. We're open for another hour here, folks, so call in. We're going to put that into a podcast, but if you call in with a legal question or concern, we're going to get it recorded here.